Hello, ladies and gentlemen, here I am again. No, please don't get tired of me. I'm only here on a mission. I'm here because the universal God, the Father of us all humans, are in love with every last one of you. And I am so committed because I have to be. I'm here to do as I am being directed to do. And I guess that means I love God. And to love God means to love you. And so what else could I do but be obedient to God and you? My sisters and brothers, I have been out here, you've heard me say, some of you, for at least 40 years. And I've produced and post thousands of video posts on YouTube, and I've transferred some of them to Facebook. And every now and then, over a few years, I check back and I find that maybe several hundred people have listened to one or two of them. But for the most part, each one is way under 100 views. And so I ask myself oftentimes, when people can put foolishness on a post, and you check back, you can find sometimes overnight it have thousands of views, and in a week's time, perhaps millions, over foolishness. And things as important as your life gets very little attention. I try to tell myself it's because how I tag it. That is the major reason why you don't get a chance to see it. But if truth be known, it's basically, I would say, that most of you are not really concerned about what I'm talking about because it sounds foreign, and if you have heard before, it ended up just being conversation. So I kind of heard something this morning that kind of given me a little bit of advice about how to speak to you now. In the past, I have spoken to you, the individual, and I understand that my problem might just be with you, the individual. And so this time, I'm not speaking to you, the individual. I'm speaking to the spirit that is in you, the individual. You know, I'm thinking about some of my history. And I remember being just a small boy. I'm not quite familiar with the age. But I lived on a plantation. It was called, I believe, Dubob's Plantation outside of Itabena, Mississippi. And out in those areas, sometimes there would be trees growing out in the fields, by a bush or someplace, or by the breaks. And there were oftentimes apple trees and pear trees. And I'm reminded that, you know, when you're a little kid and you're too little to go to the field, sometime you would go around places like these trees to pick up some apples and to enjoy yourself. And I'm reminded about a couple of people that looked different than me being out there as well. They were young, obviously, as I was. And we'd pick apples up and we would throw apples at each other and we'd laugh and play as long as we could, then we'd go our separate ways. And I'm reminded that those kids used to look almost as bad as I did. And as time grew, I learned that these people are what you call, they were poor. They were poor like we were now. I'm sure they didn't know they were poor. I didn't know I was poor. We were just kids, but we looked the same. We had to go through some of the same things. I understand that they oftentimes have been referred to as the poor whites. Sometimes call them the poor white trash. People that suffering some of the same sufferings that slaves were suffering. I've seen movies about them, and I recognize that they do exist. But I was doing some research last night, and I ended up with some reporters going through some of the towns that Donald Trump catered to. Some of the towns in the coal miners' towns in places like West Virginia. There was a city, I believe, called McDowell City. Let's see. We called it McDowell County, West Virginia. And I recognize there the people have the same hardships as black people in those places where blacks live. I understand that some of the information that was given indicated that when this nation was being compromised by the British and English, that there were a group of white people that were sent over here too. They didn't come over as slaves, they came over as serfs and people that were downtrodden, and they even had certain places of the country that they wanted them to live. They were referred to as poor white trash, beggars and bagger bums and rednecks, all kinds of names that they were given. But they suffered the same atrocities as we, as slaves. They were, when you put them together, treated just a little bit different if we were side by side. And they used that situation to put these poor white people against black people, because these poor white people were in need. They might have got a little better off. They had the right color, but they were in need just as the blacks were. And so anytime they were missing out on something, they were directed, instructed, indoctrinated to blame blacks. Now, I don't think blacks were ever taught to blame the white trash, but this is the way it came up. And so what is common about this, ladies and gentlemen, is that slaves and poor white people, all of us have had to go through some of the same atrocities as one another. And what was it for? It was for the benefit of the aristocracy, the aristocrats, who were out to get everything they possibly can and use everyone that was necessary for them to get what they got, and as much of it as they could get. And when you start talking about as much as they could get, it meant how much pain and suffering that the others, blacks and whites, would have to endure in order to do that. Can you believe it? Can you actually believe that people came to this country using us? And this is how this nation was basically built. It is how it was formulated. And for all of the 200 plus years, this is what we have had to endure and still are enduring. When I think about a little hometown in Mississippi called Itta, Mississippi, a little town that I grew up in, it was never a big booming town, far from that, but they had stores that people that lived in the neighborhood or somewhere close by could come and do some shopping. All of those stores are gone now, ladies and gentlemen. There might be one Chinaman store there, or maybe a gas station, or maybe down the highway someplace another gas station or a general store, and everything else is gone. It's amazing how you can look in a little town called Greenwood, Mississippi. They're a little bit better off, but just a small bit better. You think about places like Jackson, Mississippi, and Hinds County. We think about Leflore County. We think about little places like Mill City. These people are going through all kinds of changes, ladies and gentlemen. We think about Arkansas. We think about Atlanta, or should I say Georgia. We think about Alabama. There's all kind of pain and suffering that's going on. People just seem to be just hanging on by a thread, and they don't understand why. They do know that how often they have put their faith and trust in politicians. politicians that promise this and that. They recognize some of the problems. Like, for instance, Donald Trump recognized that down in West Virginia, how the coal miners have been suffering. I mean, they're going through some trying times, ladies and gentlemen. And Donald Trump capitalized on that, promising that he was going to do something, open back these mines. And when these people are suffering, what are they going to do? They're going to reach out and say, I'm going this way. I've got to do something for myself. And when Barack Obama came through, black people went crazy. We're going to do something. We got to do something for ourselves. Now we got a black president. We're going to do something. And you know it ended up, we're no better off. I think he was able to help with the healthcare system. That's not about the most he could do. And then we were instructed, we were indoctrinated to believe that he could not accomplish any more than he did, because the other party, the Republicans, they did everything they could possibly do to prevent him from doing anything for blacks. And the truth of the matter, ladies and gentlemen, is that is the way that the system is set up. Nobody's supposed to do anything beyond a certain minimal limit for us, for we, the masses of the people here in the United States of America. And just a few people, the 1%ers, are ripping this whole earth off all over the globe. The same way they might be doing it under different political systems, but it's the same outcome all over the earth. The masses are suffering for the benefit of those who have claimed that they were superior to others. Do you know people marry in the same family to keep their resources together, claiming that their particular DNA qualifies them to be superior to others? I know many of you have been to school and you know about this, but many of you don't. Doesn't matter whether you know it or not, it is happening. It is part of the problem that we as human beings experience one way or another every day of our lives. We ask ourselves, what are we going to do about it? Who are we going to turn to? Most people who have been trusting in politicians have learned that it doesn't matter whether it has a small D in front of it or a small R. We seem to be lost, but there should be somewhere, something, someone that we could turn to that would guide us and lead us into a direction where we can live, where some of our dreams can come true. And it doesn't just have to be a dream that is never fulfilled. I remember not too long ago, there was a young man by the name of Kanye West talking about the 400 years that black people have been held down in slavery. And he said he could not understand how in the world black people can be held down in oppression for 400 years. He felt that if that existed, it must have been because black people submitted to it. And he got a lot of bad slack for that. But if you give it some thought, you should think about it. Back in the day, natives were going through changes. But they fought. They fought until all of their leadership was killed. And the only people that submitted were the young, who were too young to fight, and the old, who were too old to fight. And those in between, women who just couldn't fight. So they allowed themselves to be hoarded over to reservations. And they put alcohol, whiskey and stuff there to keep them drunk, to keep their minds messed up so they wouldn't grow up. And it's the same thing that they've done to blacks. Put them in certain areas. Give them Jim Crow laws. Give them all kinds of stuff that would never work for them. They put whiskey and stuff there. Put little shacky town clubs and gave them reasons to be mad with each other so they could fight each other. And then they started bringing drugs into the community and getting them hooked on drugs. And when they would do certain things, they would end up putting what you call 3 strikes. And if you go into jail 3 times, now you end up, you can't get out. They just hoarding people into prison so that they could work for corporations and others free, a quarter or something a day. I know, I've been to prison. I worked for 10 cents a day, 10 cents an hour. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to work for a quarter an hour. Well, because I had grew up in a big family where I had to be responsible for, and I spent some time cooking, and I had done some mess work in the military, I was able to eventually start cooking in prison. And I, for some strange reason, ended up getting what? I don't know what the wage, maybe $1.60 something an hour, but I worked all the time. So you end up getting $300 a month. You thought you were doing something. But everybody else is going through all these kinds of changes. These are types of oppressions that we have to endure because we don't have the guidance, we don't have the leadership. And Kanye was saying the reason that black people stayed in this position for so long, it had to be because they had a mind warp, that something had happened to warp their minds, because there's no way a human being that could think would allow that to happen to themselves. He found himself wanting to be more than just a nigger. He found himself wanting to be more than just somebody that reflects what they had said about black people. He had a talent. And he said, I heard him say, unless they had a clone made looking like him, made this statement in an interview, but I'm thinking it was Kanye West. It was identified as Kanye West. It looked like Kanye West, and it sounded like Kanye West. He said he sold his soul. He made a pact with the devil. He made a pact with the devil to get out of the situation that he was in. He said black people weren't trying to go any place. They just lingering around, doing nothing, raising sand about the past, figuring about where they come from, how often they've been here, what they've gone through, rather than looking ahead and trying to see where we must go and how we got to get out of here quick. He said he couldn't turn to black people. And so he had to end up making a pact with the devil, and to prove that he was authentic with that pact to the devil, he had to sacrifice his mom, a lady that loved him dearly, who used to hug him and call him her little baby boy. But in order for him to get out of the hell that he was in, he had to sacrifice her. They killed her. And it was by his okay. This was saying to the devil that I'm committed. And it was working. He says that people at the top, they're having a good time. He said it's hard because of what he had to do. He said he can't even go to the bathroom unless somebody hovering over him, controlling him, manipulating him, his handlers. And I've heard that most entertainers, in fact, probably all of them who are making big money, have done the same thing, have sacrificed somebody. Somebody they've given up. They got blood on their hands, so they won't be talking. And the devil is rewarding them, whether it's in entertainment, whether it's in sports, wherever people are super rich and they're not doing anything to do it. Like sports. These guys play a little ball and make hundreds of millions of dollars. While everybody else, the masses. Now, when you think about having to sacrifice your parents, having to sacrifice your race because they're just stuck like glue, or something worse than glue, like flies and honey. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, is there an answer? Of course there is an answer. I've been talking about that answer for 40 years. And I've got to speak to your spirit to let you know, spirit, that you are not alone. The body that housed you is corrupt. It's been trained, it's indoctrinated to be like it is. But black people were not made to be slaves and to live that way the rest of their lives. I don't care how the prophecies say they were punished, cursed to be in bondage for so many years. White people, the same for you. You were not made to be like this. You were tricked. All of us who are suffering have been tricked by the hierarchy, the 1% that we refer to here in America. We've all been lied to, programmed in our educational system, programmed through the recreation that we have been allowed to deal with every day, and programmed by the radios, programmed by the television, programmed by the commercials, and everything that we see. It has to do with keeping us in the relationship or in the spot that we're in. And every now and then a few people can make money and give us hope that one day we can do it. But we have to keep our minds focused on those kinds of things that have allowed them to get out. They didn't tell us that they were sacrificing people. Kanye did, but the rest of them didn't. They didn't tell us who they sacrificed, what kid, what family member, what friend they had to sacrifice. But now the message is out. And I come to tell you, ladies, that the spirit of you that can hear, there is a power that you can't see. Just like the spirit that's in you. When I see a body, I don't see the spirit. I see the body, but I know you're there. There's another spirit called God, the creator of the universe. You can't see it. You can't touch it. You can't feel it. But when I look at you, I know that the spirit exists because you're here. When I look at the earth that you're standing on, I know that that spirit exists because we're standing on something that was not here. I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there is a way out. But that spirit that made you, that spirit that made the earth, has a plan that would allow you to get out of the deprivation that we experience every day. And that is to recognize that there is a God that you can turn to. And you don't have to turn to that deceiver. You don't have to turn to the alternative. You don't have to turn to Satan, who promises you that all of the stuff that you want, your dreams and aspirations, can be fulfilled. All you got to do is turn and give your trust and make your commitment to Satan. Yes, Satan has stolen everything, but how did he steal it? By lying to the people, and the people gave it up. I'm telling you today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you today, the spirit that lies within each of these people, I want you to inform them, to share with them, to lift them up, to give them courage to stand, to know that all of the resources of this earth, whatever they might be, in the earth or on the earth or above the earth, whether they're seen or unseen, they are all from God. And they are for the purposes of individuals on the face of the earth. Individuals on the face of the earth. You and I. Why? So that all of our dreams can come true. That we can have a purpose for living based upon what has been planted in our hearts for us to do while on this earth. So we can engage ourselves in the creative process of all of that which we need for survival, which we want, which we desire. Food, clothing, shelter, education, health care, infrastructure, transportation, all of these various things, ladies and gentlemen, and the other things that are so many I can't even take the time to explain or identify right here. It has all been set up for us. And by each of us participating in the creative process, we all become owners of everything that exists at the hands of man. So no one has to go into debt. No one needs the devil for anything. And you will never have to create poverty and crime and violence and lying and cheating and stealing and prejudice and racism and bigotry. I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, all that comes around because our bodies have been tricked to listen to a deceiver. Now I'm telling you, the Spirit of God speaking to the Spirit that's in you, that all of these things that these corporations and all of these 1%ers have stolen and claim to be theirs, you can take back. You can take it back. You don't have to fight a war to take it back. You claim it, and you don't work for them. You change the system that it works for you, that it addresses your concerns. And what are your concerns? Every last one of you are protected. None of you would be living in poverty unless all of you were living in poverty. None of you would have to go through crime and violence unless every last one of you had to. And you made a decision by the power of the Almighty God that you can't see, that you're not going to go through any of this stuff any longer. That is my message to the spirit that lies in you. You don't have to sacrifice your mother, your father, your brothers and cousins and sisters, your whole family, your friends. No, my friends, my sisters, my brothers, my spirit lies with your spirit. It is time for all of us to rise up. All of black people. And black people, I want you to stop talking about you being the original people. It doesn't matter. And I want my black people to stop talking down on white people. That is nothing. That's the same old game that's been played. And white people, wherever you are, I want you to stop talking down on black people. I want you to stop blaming black people for your problems. They are not your problem. Your problem are those who are living high on the hill. Your problem is the fact that you followed a demon. I sat there, I was shocked. I know what we black people are going through. I was shocked to see those people down in McDowell County, West Virginia, the suffering that they have to go through, what they've gone through, just like in Itabena, Mississippi. And they thought maybe Trump. I mean, some of these guys had voted twice for Barack Obama, but they got nothing. So they think Trump, the man who said he was a billionaire, who didn't need money from others. Other people who ran for office needed to get funding so they could campaign. He didn't need to get funded. He came out there speaking stuff and got all of the free advertising. No presidential candidate ever got the kind of free advertising that Donald Trump got. Because he was saying he was going to address the issues of you, the people. And he didn't mind saying it. And he didn't mind pointing fingers at those he said was your problem. He didn't tell you that the rich people were the problem. He said poor people were the problem. Poor countries were the problems. People in Washington, down in the swamp, he was going to clean it out. He did clean it out and brought them all to give him some success, make his administration successful, so that not only could they get richer, but he could get richer at the expense of you, the people, all of us. So I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm speaking to the spirit that lies in you, politics is not the answer. I don't care what Republican, whether it's Donald Trump or somebody else replaced Donald Trump, it's not your answer. On the other side, Democrat, I don't care who it is, a black person or a white person, a man or a woman, they're not your answer. The answer is God. But in order for the spirit of that living God to be made manifest in this country, it is going to require that the spirit that has been lying dormant in you, that you feed it, give it permission to live, and it will stand up and receive the directions from God. And by love, my friends, it will apply itself through you, that you will take the necessary action to recoup all that the devil has taken from you. That you will not only recoup it, you will use it in such a way that everybody can shout hallelujah. That everybody can say God is alive. I'm trying to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for the full stop. And for love to run rampant all over this nation and won't stop at the border. Run all over this earth. If I can't say that to you, I got nothing else to say. But I can say this to you because I know it's real. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the military. Don't be afraid of those who are so brainwashed they're ready to start a race war. Do not be afraid of anything. God is with you. And if they do anything to hurt you, it will build God up in such a way, my friends, that all of hell will start breaking and loose running. You're always loved. Every last one of you. The haters are loved. The racists, they are loved by God. But like you, they haven't seen it. Because no one would apply themselves in that regard. And those that did were killed. And everybody just waved by the side because they are afraid of death. They do not know how wonderful death is. Death is the beginning of your new life, your real life, where this hell won't do anything to bind you. If you knew that, there is no way you would allow this to happen. I'm reminded of a situation where a young man was told that he was going to Louisiana. It was a while back, far back. And he was so excited. He didn't know he was dying, and his parents wouldn't tell him that he was dying, so they wanted to keep a smile on his face. They knew there's something that he wanted to do, something he wanted to see. And so they told him, Christmas, we're going to go to Louisiana. And he was excited about it. Just as he was excited about going to Louisiana, if the truth were known and you knew that your time had come to die, you'd be as excited about it as that young man was about going to Louisiana. You'd be excited about it because you know that there's a place where people live and they are guided by a spirit of love. They don't have to be bound to this country. They don't have to be bound to this nation. They don't have to be bound to the rule of Satan that's been perpetuating himself all of our lives. Now, those who are of the 1%, they want to live forever. Why do you think they're talking about cloning? They don't want to die. They want to put their spirit in something else so they can just keep on living, keep on living, keep on living, and never die. Can you believe some stuff like that? Believe it. That's exactly what they're doing. And I want to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, my friends, my sisters, and my brothers, speaking to the spirit that is in each and every last one of you, you are loved. In this presidential election, people are going to be coming to you talking about all kinds of things. I don't want you to listen to that crap they're talking about. I want you to stand up, tell them to be quiet, and you tell them what you want. You tell them that you want peace amongst the people of this nation. You tell them that you want freedom amongst the people of this nation. You tell them that you want prosperity among the people of this nation. Prosperity and the joy of life among the people of this nation. Tell them that you want your dreams and all of your dreams to come true among the people of this nation. And that begins with everybody having access to a career of their own choosing so they can participate in the creative process. Tell them that you require that there is health care for everybody in this nation from the womb to the tomb. Tell them that you require unlimited, unrestricted education for everybody in this nation without debt. Tell them, my friends, that you require that not another American citizen ever have to suffer from a lack of food, or never have to suffer again from a lack of housing. And all of the other things, ladies and gentlemen, will be fulfilled by you engaging yourselves in the creative process. You tell them what you want. Tell them what God has put on your heart that you got to have. And if they can't deliver, sit down. You tell them and see, will there be 25 Democrats saying they want to be your leader? You tell Donald Trump and see if he want to be your president. You tell anybody that gets before you talking about what they can do, you don't give a stink what they can do. You tell them what they must do. And make sure whoever gets up there know that you are the boss. You, the people, are the boss. No law is to hold you in slavery. No rule, no regulation is to bound you in slavery. And no race and what they think about themselves is to bound you in stupidity. Well, I got up early this morning, I think it was about 3 something. The Lord was speaking to me, and this is what I got. And I shared it with you, and it made me feel good. I hope by speaking this to your spirit, you will feel the same. Until next time, this is Eddie Marcus saying goodbye.